Welcome to Season 2 of the Color Success Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie J. Wong. Kev Luu is a music producer, engineer, artist, and educator originally from Las Vegas, Nevada, but currently resides in Los Angeles, California. Kev's parents are Chinese immigrants from Vietnam, and he attributes a lot of his inspiration and work ethic to his mother, who is a Vietnam War refugee. Kev's passion for music started at an early age, when his father allowed him to take guitar lessons, because Kev's grandpa did not allow his father to learn music. His grandpa feared that his father would beg for money as a street musician in Vietnam. Kev graduated from the prestigious Berklee College of Music in Boston, where he double majored in music production and engineering and electronic production and design. He has taught DJing and hip-hop poetry at Yale University's summer program, Explo, worked at the studio at the Palms with some of the biggest names in entertainment, such as Celine Dion, Britney Spears, Tyga, Carlos Santana, Channing Tatum, Shaq, and others. He is currently working as a freelance engineer-producer for Atlantic Records, The Village Studios, Woodshed Recording, and is a part of the electronic pop duo Mid-City Flannel with Geneva May. He is the editor-mixer for the Blacklist podcast featured on Luminary and is a music production instructor for the Conley Academy. Kev, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm super excited because I have another creative on here and you have such an interesting story. So I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about growing up in Las Vegas and transitioning to LA, working with the biggest names in music.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you for having me to start off. So honored to share my story. And yeah, I grew up in Las Vegas, and as many people have asked me, what's it like growing up there? Like, what's that experience like? Because a lot of people think the Vegas is just the strip, Las Vegas Boulevard, where all the casinos are. And that is a big part of Las Vegas and what brings in the economy. However, there's a huge suburb and there's UNLV, a big university, as well as other colleges around. So growing up there, it was just like any other upbringing, I feel like, where, you would have schools, groceries, all that. I actually had a really good public music school program, which is how I got into music at a pretty early age. And I can go more into detail about that later. But Vegas was surprisingly very supportive of the arts when I was growing up, which I think now it's changed. I'm still pretty close to my choir teacher and I haven't caught up with her in a little bit, but, just hearing budgets always being cut in the arts program, not just in Las Vegas, but in a lot of major cities. It's heartbreaking to me because growing up, again, in Las Vegas, I was able to study guitar in middle school. I went to a performing arts high school, Las Vegas Academy, in high school for 2 years before transferring to my zoned high school. So Vegas was a great place, and I'm very honored to grow up there. I'm very proud to be a native Las Vegan. There's not many of us, so there's a lot of pride in that. So coming over to Los Angeles, where I currently am working as a freelance recording engineer, music producer, doing my artist thing. I'm in a band. So it's like I came out here because I'm chasing the dream, Stephanie. Real talk. I'm still going for it. I've been wanting this for so long. And Los Angeles, it was such a risk for me. It was a big jump because I was scared, not gonna lie. Las Vegas, I was comfortable. I had my family there. I grew up there. I knew the city. So to maneuver was, a lot more comfortable than coming out to Los Angeles where, yes, it's very expensive. The competition is very, very high. Everyone comes out here to chase the dream. So I came out here a little bit later. So I graduated from college in 2012 from Berklee College of Music in Boston. Let me clarify, this is not UC Berkeley, which everyone confuses. Different spelling, different everything. It's on the East Coast in Boston, Massachusetts, Berklee College of Music. So I graduated from there in 2012. So after 2012, I essentially came back to Las Vegas and I worked at this studio called the Studio at the Palms, which is an amazing experience. I spent 5 years there and I got to work with so many great artists and had such a phenomenal experience. And then after a while, I was just kind of like, man, I want more. I need more. I know there's more. And Los Angeles being 4 hours away from Las Vegas just seemed like the natural progression to make in my career and life.
Well, now you're a small fish in a big pond, so to speak. So how was that transition? Because I'm sure there's a little bit of culture shock there, being in a suburban town to now in this mecca of entertainment.
It was a little bit of a culture shock. I'm not going to lie, for sure, because of how the different dynamics of Vegas and Los Angeles can be. However, I feel like I was given kind of like, I don't want to say an edge or like a head start or anything, but because of the experience I had at Studio at the Palms in Las Vegas, I was able to meet a lot of great mentors and just collaborators and these big successful producers and engineers that when I came out to Los Angeles, my transition was a little bit smoother than most people fresh out of school, coming to LA, trying to make it, interning at studios or doing what they had to, doing basically what I did in Vegas. I got to come into LA and get some opportunities a little bit, just smoother rather than...
You had connections.
I had the connections. I made a few calls. I made some things happen, and it was, so that was a blessing for sure.
This is good for a lot of younger folks coming up in the industry. I'm wondering, how did you put yourself out there to be really coachable? Because not everyone gets mentors, nor do mentors want to have a mentee.
One big thing about studio culture is just being a good hang. That's what we always preach, and that's what I always tell younger producers and engineers that I'm currently mentoring. And it's just, we're in the studio for sometimes 16 plus hours a day, day after day, weeks after. Some of these projects take forever. So if I'm going to see you every day, or they're going to see me every day, I'm going to make sure I'm going to shower. I'm going to look nice.
Thank you.
Which is, you think that's like, oh my God, common sense. But no, like some people, it's like you want to be presentable. You want to be a good hang. Don't be like, don't have an ego. Don't be hard to work with. Don't ask questions during the inappropriate time, right? Like those kind of things. Like you're there to help. You're in the studio. You're there for a job. Do the job. Don't fanboy. Don't, all this stuff. Like just be respectful and, be a good hang. Other things like, if I notice the client or someone like they're really into football and they're like a whatever Steelers fan, well, that night after the session, I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to look at how are the Steelers doing this season, and I'm going to come into the session tomorrow having some kind of like talking point to make me more relatable. Yeah, so that's more likable. How about that rather? So I think that is something that I've always taking extra effort for. I have a little notebook that I keep in my backpack when I do sessions. I just take notes of like, this is silly, but what people like to eat. Like, because a lot of the jobs I did at Studio Palms was as an assistant engineer. So I was the person in the room that was taking the lunch orders and, doing the grunt intern work as they, may classify. However, my job was very important as one. I took it serious. I made sure I was on time and, I knew the food orders. If I knew such and such was coming back to the studio, I was like, hey, did you want that spinach omelet again? No tomatoes, like last
That's
time.
Adorable.
And like, man, I like this guy. Kev is cool. I like him. I want to work with him again. Hey, Zoe, she's a studio manager at the Palms. Much love to Zoe Thrall. Hey, Zoe, can we work with Kev again? Is he available? And then, it's just so that it's building that connection. And so that over time led to me coming to LA and getting jobs and opening doors. So yeah, anyone young that's listening, trying to come up, and not just the music industry or the audio industry or any industry, it's like people want to like you. I want to like you. Don't give me a reason not to like you, or be a good hang. And that's for me, humbly speaking, has worked well.
Well, I think you're also talking about personalization, right? Because you are getting to know someone's likes and dislikes, and that really speaks to being attentive to the person, the whole person, and not just, oh, you're famous, so I'm going to get you the salad that you want. But really, it's like, hey, I'd like to connect with this person on a genuine level.
Correct. Genuine. You can feel when someone's genuine, or when someone's trying too hard, someone's faking it. I can feel it, and I get it. When I was young, you want to impress them, you want to do a good job, so like sometimes you're too friendly, but being genuine about just taking care of the client and making sure they're comfortable is the name of the game. That's really what it is. And the thing about the famous people too, yes, they're popular and they're well known and their faces are all over TV and everything, but they're normal people too. Trust me. Like, humbly speaking, again, like I've been very blessed to be in the same room as very successful musicians and artists, and they eat just like us, they crack jokes just like us, they like music, obviously, they love, we talk politics, we talk music, we talk movies, we talk shit. You know what I mean? Like that's part of the game. May
That's
I
the
swear?
best. Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's just part of what it is, and goes back to kind of the earlier point of like just being a good hang. Like, I'm not gonna, go up to some big artist that I'm working with and say like, oh, I saw this on TMZ. Not a good move, right? Like, party foul, Kev. Don't do that. So, So knowing how to respect their boundaries and their privacy is something that is also very important.
Definitely. And I think in general, that's a good idea, is to respect people's boundaries. And I tell clients that all the time, like, how are you going to set up your boundaries? So I guess the follow-up question would really be, how do you tote the line between being personable, being likable, and not compromising yourself and not having any boundaries?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if that's as black and white as we may think. It's just kind of being yourself again. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I've really learned to grow into. I'll be honest, like, so I'm 32 and, I've been in this audio music hustle for a little bit. And when you first start as an artist, as a creative person, oh my gosh, the insecurities are crazy. You can't get out of your own head. Like, why am I doing this? The imposter syndrome. I'm sure you know about it. I'm sure you can speak on it more as far as what that means. And I had it. Oh my gosh, I had it. And I couldn't stop doubting myself. However, the thing that I have to keep telling myself, and I want to share to anyone listening, younger or older, is to not quit. Don't quit. You can't stop. Just keep going. This project may not be so successful, or you may fail. You may take the L, as they say, on this project or this client or whatever, and that's just what it is. And you got to move on. Look ahead of you, as they say. And I can't remember why I saw this, but might be a meme or something on the internet, where they say, like, when you're in your car, how big is your front windshield? Just think about it. How big is it? But how big is your rear view mirror? It's a lot smaller, right? So that's a metaphor, symbolism, if I've never seen one or heard one in my life.
I like that.
Look ahead of you. Look ahead of you. What happened behind you? And oh my gosh, let's get into it if you want, Stephanie. Like,
Let's do it.
The past was rough. Some stuff happened that was like, ooh, this is bad. This could be really bad. And I'm glad to have not given up during those moments, and am still able to make music and work in audio till today, for sure. It was scary.
Well, let's talk about that, because I'm here to get into the meat, obviously. And so what were some of the struggles or challenges that you faced?
Before I talk about myself, I want to give a little precursor about my family, because I would be remiss if I didn't give a lot of praise to my parents for how they brought me up and their journey. I'm not gonna cry. So
come on, that's manly. Come on.
I'm about this. I want to say this on record too, is that I'm about like destroying this toxic masculinity. Like,
thank you.
Yes, it just doesn't need to be. Anyways, so my family is everything to me. Everything I do is for and because of my family. So my parents are Chinese immigrants from Vietnam. So just like, I know that's like throws people for a loop, maybe. So it's like, we're Chinese, but my parents grew up in Vietnam.
Sure.
And there's actually a lot of Chinese Vietnamese people that I've met. So I'm sure you know a lot, like being from the Bay Area and everything. So my parents had to escape Vietnam after the war. So my mom is both of my parents actually are Vietnamese war refugees. Now, my father was able to have a easier experience. I learned this term today, earlier, but it's called BOBA. So it's an acronym for brought over by airplane, which was my father's experience from Vietnam to America. My mother, not so fortunate in the sense that her and a lot of people on my mother's side, but this particular experience was my mother and my uncle, which was her younger brother, was on a boat for a number of days, escaping Vietnam. We're talking a fishing boat. We're not talking some yacht, no Carnival cruises. This is a fishing boat from Vietnam after the war, and they had to go out into the ocean, leave their family. My mom was 16. Mm-hmm. My mom was 16. So she literally left everything she knew behind, was on a boat with my uncle, got to Indonesia, where they were in a refugee camp for about like 5-6 months before my family in America was able to sponsor them to come to America, right? So that's the story I have been told since I was a kid, and that's everything I base my life off of, because if anything is going to go wrong in my life, or any hardship or heartbreak or whatever I've gone through in my life, I didn't go through that what my mom went through. I didn't have
reference point. Mm-hmm.
reference point. I didn't have to go through that. I wasn't forced out of my country to escape to a better life. My mom came 16 years old to a new country, didn't know English, no money, nothing. Started a life, started a family, raised me, my brother, and she's an amazing woman. So she's one of the strongest people I know. So everything, just let me precurse as I tell this story. And how much time do we have? Because I don't want to rant.
Well, you go for it.
Let's go. So I want to precursor everything before I go down this rabbit hole, that I love my family. I love my parents. My mom and dad mean everything to me. Not just my mom and dad, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, they are everything. So I started learning music at a pretty early age because my dad was like, hey, I remember this very clearly. He's like, do you want to learn guitar? And I was like, maybe. I'm 8, 9 years old, so I was so young. And my dad was like, hey, I've always wanted to learn music, but grandpa never let me learn music in Vietnam because he was scared I'd be like haki. In Cantonese, it's like haki is like, you know, like a bum, or I don't know. In Vietnam, my grandpa didn't want my dad to be out in the streets playing music for money. So that he never got to learn, although my dad is a really good singer, and he just actually was a finalist in this Buddhist singing competition.
That's so cool.
Oh my God, it's so cool. I gotta send you the picture on Instagram. It was so cool. And so like, my dad's a singer. He's always loved music. You know, like most Asian family parents, like they do karaoke. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like growing up, I remember like falling asleep on the chair in karaoke bars with my dad. You know, music, maybe that was like osmosis, like why I love music. I'm so obsessed with it. Like through my dad. My dad wanted to learn music. He couldn't. He was like, son, you want to play music? Want to play the guitar? And I was okay. And then, you know, one thing led to another. Like I was mentioned earlier, the middle school had a great guitar program. You know, went to Las Vegas Academy in high school, and you know, after that, it was like, and I was just kept doing the music thing. And my parents were like, man, is he ever gonna stop? Like, you know what I mean? Like, does he want to do anything else? He's not dumb. He's a smart kid. You know, he means well. He's a nice guy. There's probably something he could do that's gonna make him more money than doing music. And that was always my parents' concern, like most parents would, any kid going into the arts, especially the music, as an Asian American, right? Growing up, no one did it. No, you know, they had no reference point. My parents couldn't be like, hey, you see him? He's successful. Be him, right? Not in music. Or there were few and far between. Yeah. Let's say that. Let's be fair. It's not that there weren't any. It just wasn't as popular as maybe today. It's still not a lot today. Yeah. But we're getting better. And so my parents wanted the best for me. They're, you know, yes, they're, you know, strict Chinese parents, and they're in ways conservative. However, they're very supportive of my brother and I. They were always wanting us to be happy. So whether it's doing sports, doing karate, doing whatever, like, yo, let the kids learn. And music was something that through all the other activities I stuck with. And then I hit them with I want to go to music college. And they're like, whoa.
Oh man, we let this kid play guitar and it led to this.
What? And it's like, so actually, like, I went to UNLV for a year, and I studied music composition. I did a recording program there, and I just, like, you know, all love to UNLV, and there's great programs there. It's just like that program wasn't right for me. They were very jazz and classical based, and I wanted to make pop music. And I remember my composition teacher at UNLV, like, listening to my homework, and he's like, I think you need a beat on this song and on this piano thing. You know, he's like, it's just like this. It wasn't the assignment. I just wanted to make popular music, and I was like, I love hip hop, and I again grew up playing guitar, and I was like, yeah. So it was just a very disconnect for me to be at UNLV. So I transferred to Berklee College of Music, and that was like, oh my God, that conversation with my parents, like, I want to go to this private college in Boston, Massachusetts for music. And they're like, are you serious? Like, are you serious? So I was like, yeah. So I worked my ass off. I like learned this jazz piece. Because I honestly wasn't the best musician. And to get back to the imposter syndrome, I was like, man, I got no business going to this college. I'm none. Are you serious? Like, but I was like, I'm gonna go for it from an early age. I'm like, let's go. If I fail, okay, I'll stay at UNLV, whatever, you know. But I went for it. So I showed my parents I was determined, and I worked my ass off. Actually came out to here, LA, and I auditioned here. Long story short, I got in. So I was so ecstatic, you know. So we made it work, right? Again, private college, out of state. Oh my gosh. So it wasn't cheap, let's be real. But we made it work, you know, whether it's through loans or, you know, like eventually I got some scholarships, and, you know, just like we made it work. So, but it wasn't easy because, you know, I'll be I'll be frank about this. Like, I come from a middle class family. You know what I mean? Like, again, mom came here, Vietnam, 16, no money, worked her butt off, working in casinos and everything. And, a little background on my parents too. They worked in the casinos during the swing shift. And I don't know how many people know about what the swing shift is in Las Vegas.
Tell us, Kev, tell us.
The swing shift starts at 8 p.m. when most families are going to sleep, and they work until 4 a.m. That was my parents' schedule for a lot of our lives. And when we were younger, my parents would alternate. Like, I think my dad was on swing, mom was like working day shifts. So it was like they were able to at least see us. But you know what I mean? Like, yo, my parents hustled. All love again to my parents. They hustled. That's where I get the hustle from. The drive is from seeing my parents like be self-made. So they would work these swing shifts. But then during the day, when my brother and I, we were around, my brother's 13 months older than me. So like when we were in high school, my parents both started doing real estate. So they were working 2 jobs, real estate during the day, casinos at night. So, my brother and I, we were kind of on our own for a little bit. Like, and it wasn't like out of neglect. Like, my parents weren't like leaving us alone. They were just hustling. They wanted the best for us. So they had this opportunity. Again, my parents are smart. Neither of them went to college, but they're intelligent people. So they worked hard and they were able to get a real estate license and sell homes and manage properties, and they had investment properties and all this stuff, right? Las Vegas at a time was a great place to buy homes, and still kind of is. However, guess what year I went to college? When was the recession? 2008. So I started college in 2008. I went my first semester. Like, it was all good. Like, I didn't, I'm a kid. I'm 19 at that point. I was so excited. I'm going, living my dream. I got into my dream school. I'm going, right. My first semester, after my first semester, I went home. It was Christmas, holiday break, right? Holiday break after college. And I remember distinctly, not gonna cry, I had a meal with my mom at this Vietnamese restaurant. We're sitting there, just me and my mom. And she tells me we got to foreclose the home. And I was like, damn. I'm crying in the restaurant. Like, how can I feel so selfish to go to a private college for music when my family's packing up our shit to move because we have to foreclose? Not just that home, like investment properties. And it just wasn't our family, right? Like, Las Vegas got hit and a lot of families were hurting. I was just starting my dream college. So I was like, okay, game over, done. I'm quitting. I'm dropping out of college, coming home, getting a job. Let's go. Like, we're in this, right? We're family. My mom was like, no, like, you got into school. You're going to finish. And she made me promise, like, if I worked hard and finished, that it'd be worth everything that the family's going through, right? And I promised. And
that's powerful. What was running through your mind as your mom was telling you this? And even now, I mean, I'm going to say it because if on audio, they can't see your tears, but this means, this moment means so much to you.
Yeah, I've never like talked about this, so it's kind of, this is, it meant, I don't use the word everything loosely, right? Because everything is like, there's a lot. But I knew that moment on, like, all right, let's go. Like, let's go. I had an opportunity. I did. And I couldn't throw this away. I had to make the most of it. So I went back to Berklee. I went back. And man, like, that second semester was real rough. Like, But being in that environment and being with supportive friends, I mean, I remember at that time, like, shout out Peter Flom, Matt Garska, my roommates in my dorm, like, they were like very loving and supportive. And I told them like what happened. And, I think I even, oh my gosh, Berklee had a therapy program and I saw a therapist and like, I had good friends. I had great friends that still talk to today. That's what Berklee really gave me, was that network and the friendship and so I still talk to them. And a lot of the friends from Berklee are still close to my heart. So I went back and I'm a humble guy. I am. But I did my thing. I crushed it out there. I went back to Berklee. I double majored. I did the arguably the 2 hardest majors at the college, which was the music production engineering program. And I double majored in electronic production and design, which was, you know, a lot of more like the electronic production side. Music production was more like recording using microphones, consoles, etc. Anyways, I did a double major. I did 2 degrees at Berklee. I just was there. I was like, I'm gonna learn everything I need to learn to prepare me when I get out of this school, that I'm gonna walk into any studio and I'm gonna make it work. So that was, yeah. So, you know, 2008 to 2012, I was at Berklee in Boston. After that, I actually taught I taught a high school summer program called Explo at Yale in Connecticut, and it was called Explo. And I was able to work with high school students. I wrote a DJing and a hip hop poetry class.
Awesome.
And it was so fun. Like, that was one of the best summers of my life. I'm not gonna lie. That was such an amazing experience. I made such great friends at Explo, like John and Andre. It's just so many great people there that I'm so happy that I've met, and I was able to inspire these young kids, which has inspired me to want to help younger people, especially, not exclusively, but Asian American kids need more role models. And I'm really trying to step into that role, whatever I have to do. Like, reach out to me. I will talk to everybody that I can, because this is important to me, that there are good, strong Asian men who can be role models for younger Asian Americans. Now, not exclusively. Like, if someone else, Caucasian, African American, wants to look up to me, I'd be honored. But I want to be a good representation of what I stand for, the experiences I've been through, and the hardships that life has thrown at me, but still persevered. I'm still chasing my dream. I'm in LA. I'm doing my thing. And I couldn't be more proud of just everything. Not just myself, but like my friends, my family, my mother, my father, like my brother. They've all been through so much with me. It's
a lot, right? And you've been through a tremendous amount, and you've made it here. And I think what you're speaking to is to be a role model to other people, and for them to see a reflection of themselves. Because when you first started, that wasn't the case, right? There were a couple people. And going back, though, to your parents, it sounded like that situation really lit a fire under your butt to say, I'm going to make it no matter what, because this is not something to be taken lightly. My tuition is just not paid for, and it's smooth sailing from here. You're like, I'm going to do this because I'm going to make it, and make it all worth it for me and the family.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was tough growing up, because as a lot of people are talking about now, especially Asian Americans, we have this identity issue, right? You know, there's us wanting to not be Asian, or, you know, like us wanting to be something else. And man, went through it. Of course I went through it, right? I'm trying to be a musician. And I didn't have anyone to really look at that was like, hey, that guy looks like me. And does music and stuff, other than a few things like MC Jin, you know, love him, grew up watching him, like was a big fan of him, actually talked to him on Instagram not too long ago, was like such a cool dude. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to one of my like childhood heroes, favorite artists. And there's a few, right? But there wasn't enough where it's like, oh, that's the path. He did this, 1, 2, 3. I do 1, 2, 3, and I may be close, right? So it was tough with the identity issue, because it's like, you want to love your culture, you want to love your family, you want to represent and all that stuff. But you're being torn by so many different things. And I didn't grow up in a predominantly Asian American area either. In Las Vegas, I was around a lot of Caucasians, African Americans. I mean, all different. It's like a melting pot, right? Like, Las Vegas is truly a melting pot. So I, you know, wasn't as, I don't want to say that we're fortunate, because that would mean that I grew up less fortunate, right? But I didn't grow up in an area where it's like, I had, you know, my cousins grew up in San Francisco. Their high school was like mostly Asian people. Yeah. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to feel like, yo, I feel like loved. So there's that identity issue growing up, which I, no cap, no lie, still deal with.
Yeah. I mean, you weren't plugged into like an Asian American peer group or community, right? So it's it is different. And so what was it like, though, being in a melting pot community?
You know, honestly, when you're a kid, you don't know any different. You don't know any different. I didn't look at my friend and be like, I'm going to be his friend because he looks this way. Or I'm not going to be his friend because he looks this way. He's just my friend because I like him. He likes me. We've had fun. Like, this is how friends are made. You ever see that the video online? It's like a little Caucasian baby and a little African American baby. Like, they're like toddlers, maybe 2 years old. And they run up to each other and give each other a big hug. And there's like, they're kids. That's how we're raised. That's how we're grew. Like, all this hate. Oh my God. It's taught. It's learned.
Absolutely.
Media, family, I don't know where people learn it. But you can unlearn it, or you don't have to believe it.
You have these young minds that we can really teach to really stand up, and that Asian American females can be a voice of reason and humility, but also assertion. So I mean, I just can't give you enough kudos for being a part of this this episode, but also part of the movement, really. And what you're really speaking to is that sometimes connection comes out of tragedy, and it sucks that that has to be the circumstance. But look at all these people who care.
Absolutely. And I was telling this to a friend. It's like, it's crazy to say, but that it took all this pandemic and all these hate crimes that, you know, I think that for me, this is my humble opinion, this is my perspective, is that I've never seen the Asian American community be more in solidarity than right now.
Mm-hmm. Right now. And mobilized.
Like, we have a voice. Let's use that. Like, shout out all those social media pages like Neck Shark and Jackfruit, and you know, even podcasts like Lucky Boys Podcast and Asians with Attitudes. And, you know, this is a great opportunity for us to really have a voice and speak up, right? Because, okay, let's be real. Let's put this out on the table, whatever. Like, yeah, us as Asians, right? Like, they always say, oh, we're like passive, we're like quiet. No. It's not that we're quiet. It's that we're respectful. So now enough is enough. If we have to fight back, we have to yell back, we have to do we have to speak up.
Yeah. While still staying true to our values, is because I think, again, toting the line between assertion and just like being belligerent, I think we still want to be respectful, like you said, and not be that person where we're screaming and people cannot hear our message. So this is not, you know, obviously this is a very shitty context to talk about, but at the same time, you know, your family, you've been through a lot. So I want to take a step back to Berklee, and you saying when you went back, you went to the therapy, you know, counseling center. What was that experience like, and why go? Because that's not maybe a common thing that people think when they're going through stress in the Asian American community.
Therapy can be very helpful because it's an outside perspective, outside of your family and friends, which we all want the best for our family and friends, right? So we're going to say things, we're going to listen, we're going to do our best. But the objectivity, like, is, you know, not in, it's different. So speaking to someone like yourself, Stephanie, a therapist, a person who has been educated and trained on the different kinds of mental illnesses and how to handle tragedies and traumas and things in life and how to keep going, right? Like, we gotta all keep going. And I've been in that situation where it's dark, but I didn't want to go anymore. I was like, this is too much. And if you reach out for help, keep going. And a therapist can be the help you need.
Can you dispel some myths? Because I have a lot of people say, I'm not going to, you know, lay on a couch and tell people all these things. And I'm like, guys, it's a conversation. Maybe some, you know, more of the older school models are laying on couches and stuff. But can you talk about more of the mechanics? Maybe not the content per se, but what was that experience like? I mean, were you laying on a couch? I mean, tell people.
Not so much. I mean, most therapy sessions can be nowadays a lot of therapy sessions are like we're doing right now over Zoom. Yeah. But, you know, the traditional sense is, you go to some office or, you know, I don't know, maybe some people do it from their like home office. I don't really know, but you're in the room, and sometimes they'll have a couch. And I guess if you wanted to lay down because it made you feel better, I'm sure the therapist would be like, to go ahead, right? Because you're there for you to help yourself. Like, I feel really selfish right now. I'm so like uncomfortable, to be honest, like talking about myself for this long. Like, I'm not that kind of person. Like, I'm always trying to help other people and like make their dreams come. You know what I mean? I'm always like trying to look out for other people. So for therapy being an opportunity that you would have that hour dedicated just for yourself. Yo, pull up. I'm gonna talk about me and my problems and whatever. Like, I'm gonna sort this stuff out in my head. And it's just that, again, objectivity and having, again, trusting. Obviously, you have to find a good therapist and you have to trust them and all that stuff. So it's helpful if it's done the right way. If you put the work in too, like, you got to come prepared. If you just pull up and I have, guilty, like, you're just like, oh, I'm just going to talk like, off top, right? Like, no, you got to prepare. This week, keep a mood journal. This week I felt this and I did this and I thought these things and I wanted to do this, but, and then talk about it. And that's always been something that has helped me. When I do the work, it always pays off. Not just in therapy, but in music and school or relationships. Like, when I put the work in, the outcome's going to be better, like 10 out of 10 times. So
I'm smiling because I'm so happy to hear that, because a lot of people have difficulty with opening up to quote unquote a stranger. What motivated you or led you to kind of confront that notion of, I'm talking to a stranger? How did you open up or kind of trust the process, as we say?
When I went, that was the last resort. I had to talk to someone. Like, for me, it was about, I need help and I'm in a bad place. And like, no matter what, my mom or anyone who tried to help me was like, this is not working. So for me, hopefully it doesn't have to come to this for most people, but for me, it was like, I'm out. We're out of ideas. What are we doing? Like, let's go get help. We need help. And that's a thing that about, again, I'm Chinese American, my parents. So it's like, maybe you can speak on this further. It's like, I don't know if my parents, okay, let me just kind of like let me set the scene. My parents growing up in Vietnam, poor as shit.
Yeah.
Went up to my grandma and said, I'm depressed. They'd get hit with a slipper and be like, we're fucking poor. Are you serious? Like, of course you're depressed. We're all depressed. So there wasn't even an opportunity to really talk about mental health, right? Now growing up in America, I'm not saying we're all like, right? I mean, yes, life still happens and it's hard, but it's like, okay, now we can address it more, right? Like, mental health is a common topic that people talk about and we can now address it. Now it's hard sometimes to, like, I'm gonna be real, like, to tell your relatives that this exists, because sometimes they're like, like, I've had aunties and uncles, like, again, all love, but like, when I was going through some hard times and I was low, they're like, like, it's all good, like in Chinese, like, shuna and ganyu, like, it's okay, like, okay,
like, just think positively.
Like, I could flip a switch and just be okay. It's not like that, right? Our brains are different. My brain is different. Brain chemistry.
And your parents, I mean, well, your mom specifically and your aunts and uncles have gone through some horrendous things, right? And so, I mean, obviously being in a refugee camp is not going to Disneyland. So I think there's a lot of like unaddressed traumas in many immigrants' stories. And I do think therapy is a privilege here because, like you said, there's even economic disparities in terms of that. But I also liken it to medical doctors, right? Or dentists. It's like, if you don't check on your teeth or clean them, what's going to happen? I mean, so I think trying to integrate this into like your holistic health is really important because, like you said, it was a last resort option. And I'm really trying to encourage people. And while we are here for that, hey, seek someone out when you see some red flags for yourself. If you can't get out of bed, if you can't function, if you're crying all the time to the point where it's difficult to regulate, you're snapping at people, maybe those are some signs to talk to somebody, right? So I know your heart's going to pound on this, but it wasn't the only time that you sought treatment. So were there other times that you have gone through some difficult times where you had to reach out for a professional help?
Yes. In 2017, I discovered I am type 1 bipolar. And that came at age 27. That's common, right, Stephanie, to discover that later in life?
Yeah.
Okay. So
tell me what that means, because people hear that and they're like, okay, sometimes they think, oh, well, I'm happy and I'm sad, but it's more than that. So what kind of happened in 2017 in terms of behaviors and thoughts that came up?
Where do I start? It was literally, and I don't use that word loosely, but looking back, talking to people who experienced that with me and was there during that time, I was a different person, and I had every signs of having a manic episode. Crazy fast speech and talk, not sleeping, crazy spending sprees, the works, everything, risky behavior, sporadic ideas, thinking I'm on top of the world, I'm Superman, no repercussions, spending money like it grew on trees, like I'd make it back the next day, had all these brilliant ideas, business ideas, and whoop-de-whoop-de, oh my goodness, could not stop me. So it was a couple situations, and I'll kind of withhold some detail because you're gonna look out for the Kev Luu movie someday, and you might get the juicy details there. That there were 2 incidents that I called the cops, and I was detained. I was what's called 5150, and I was an emotionally distressed person. I was EDP, and they took me to the emergency room and held me there for 48 hours legally, and then they transferred me to a mental hospital. And I spent weeks in that mental hospital. I mean, different times per occasion, but it was an interesting experience to say the least, because not entirely the system's fault. I will take some blame that I wasn't open to the help, right? I didn't feel like I belonged in there. I didn't feel like I was getting the help that I maybe needed or wanted at the time. So I didn't have a great experience. I really didn't. And I look back and I think that it's, can I have a second?
Yeah.
Like I said with the analogy earlier, the metaphor, symbolism, like I'm going to look forward in life. And that's all I can do. Like I can't go backwards. And what happened, and it made me a stronger person because I didn't stop. And I had my family and I put them through hell. Let it be known. My mom, my family, my cousins, my brother, we went through hell together. And I drove that train to hell. That was me.
Well, I will also say that I don't want to externalize it 100%, but no one asks for bipolar symptoms, okay? And so there's an extreme amount of stress that must have triggered something there. But you went to the extreme and you called the cops on yourself. What was the factor that set you to that point? Because not many people call the cops on themselves per se.
Right. And it was 2 separate occasions. And the stories are, the first time I was manic, I was coming off of a job, I got home late, and there was an altercation between myself and the maintenance people. I got locked out of my apartment, and I was furious. It was like 4 a.m. I got home and I was locked out of my own home, and I called the cops to basically to report it, or to and because I thought that there was something fraudulent there, right? Like I was like, you can't just lock me out of my home because of whatever happened. And I the police officer showed up, and they knew I was not well, and I was talking a million miles an hour, and I was telling them everything that's been going on, and they just knew, like, this guy needs help. So that situation led to my first visit, and then in the mental hospital. And after that, it was the second occasion. This is deep. So my parents live in Chinatown in Las Vegas, and that area is, it's not great. I was out early in the morning helping, like, my dad with the gardening. I was just, like, watering, like, the flowers in the front yard or something. I found a heroin needle in the lawn, and I thought it was like some neighbor who dropped it off, or you know what I mean. Some I was like, because I've been telling my parents for many like years. I was like, we gotta move. Like this area is not great. Like let's you know what I mean. And it was just like so fueled up of like, I told you so, right? Look what I fucking found. If I didn't find this, Dad could have stepped on this. Rage, right? That was what I was thinking. So I called the cops. And I was yelling. One thing led to another. They had helicopter over my parents' house. Units pulled up at the house. Just, yeah, it was bad. They took me away, as they should have.
So what did you learn from this situation? Because like you said, looking at in front of you, I mean, it is important, even though the rearview mirror is small, I think lessons are learned from those. So what have you learned about yourself and about coping, and also red flags if something comes up again, and how do you cope with it?
For me, it's a lot about my lifestyle. You know, let me give you a little precursor of like, so people know like how this behavior kind of came about, right? Like this career that I'm in, this as an audio engineer and a music producer and working in recording studios, a lot of us are on call. So we work when the artists or clients want to work, and we stop working when they're done working. When they say it's it, it's it. And you know, like OSHA telling us like we need a break at this hour, you got to eat. Like what? You're there for the artist. Do you know who you're in the room with? You sit your butt down, you do what you got to do to make it through the session. So I did this for years. 16, 18-hour days for weeks on end, and then not working at all because it's a feast or famine industry. So, you know, in and out of toxic relationships, like being broke and having to break leases on apartments, moving back in with my parents, depressed, like you said, can't get out of bed, no interest, like all of it led to like the big dip of the depression, right? To like something that happened that spiked the manic all the way to the top and then back down. So this crazy roller coaster of a life that I was living for many years, abusing my body and my brain for my passion. Can you imagine what that did to me? To not just my to my mental health, but my physical health and my, you know, my sleep schedule and everything. When you're young, cool. You know what I mean? Like sleep 2 hours, you're good. As you get older, it doesn't work that way.
Your body doesn't rebound the same, for sure.
So I think years of just abusing it was potentially causing some of these behaviors. But now it's like, you know, I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna get it. You know what I mean? Like, shout out all my team in LA and you know, Geneva and Huey Stonefish and all my great friends that I collaborate with. And I want us to go and work hard, but sometimes if I need a break, I need a break. And I gotta sleep. If I'm going to bed at 10 p.m. and you guys want to work all night, you guys work. I'm going to sleep. I gotta take care of myself. I gotta go exercise. I gotta eat my greens or drink my greens, or I gotta take care of myself. And when I really learn what that's about, then I can control this. Because if it gets out of control, as I just explained, it can get crazy. So I need to take care of myself. You know what I mean? I gotta like monitor, like, you know, we all like to have fun, right? Drink, smoke, whatever, like party, but like I can't do it like obviously when we're younger, or like I can't do it as often, because it's just that is gonna pull me down more than you think. So it's just I gotta take care of myself, and it's selfish sometimes, but it's not, because if anything we've learned during this pandemic is like, you know, we got to focus on ourselves. We had some time to focus on ourselves, right? So I think people are more accepting of like, okay, like, you know, being a little bit more flexible or whatever the case. So I hope people, especially in the music industry, I don't know who in the music industry is going to listen to this. I hope a lot, because this is the industry I live in, right? Like the music and audio industry, and there's so much toxic behavior in everything that is about it. You know what I mean? It's just, we don't need this. This isn't good. Like, can we all agree here? Let's figure out how to make this better and more fair for everyone, not just with the business side, but like the lifestyle. Can we work at reasonable hours? Can we have families and have this kind of career? Like, is that unreasonable? What is happening? So can we just like reevaluate what's happening right now, since we have the time and the opportunity moving forward? Can we just, you know, I don't want to be a catalyst of that, in a sense of like, I have a lot of friends and teams that my team that I work with out here in LA, and, even remotely, like I have a producer I'm working with in Phoenix, and like, so like Kyber, I tell him a lot, like, health is wealth. Health is wealth. We got to sleep. We got to eat good. We got to take care of ourselves so we can go on this race for a long time. This is a marathon, right? Nipsey Hussle said it. This is a marathon. Marathon continues. We got to go. Let's go. Let's get it. But if we're burning the candles on both ends, my dad said this a lot, we're not going to go very far.
Yeah, it's not something you can get back. And it sounds like the music industry needs psychologists for sure. But what you're really speaking to, though, is a change in a mindset of health, and not just physical health. Because I think there's all these sorts of campaigns about diabetes and, not having a heart attack. And honestly, anxiety can contribute to that as well, and the stress. And so really you're talking about self-care, connecting with good people in your life, and having that cost benefit analysis discussion of, is this really worth my health to do X, Y, and Z? And most of the time the answer is logically no. But how do you help younger people coming up? Because you do teach younger kids as well, in your music production lab that people can see behind you.
Sure.
What can you teach them about that self-care and knowing their self-boundaries?
Everyone's different, right? So I can't just have a blanket statement and say, do 1, 2, 3, and it'll be like, okay. Like, it's not, I wish I had that answer and everyone would just follow this, but I think it's about really knowing yourself, listening to yourself. You know yourself better than anybody, and you know what's going to trigger things and what's going to, what you like and don't like. And I think a lot of it too comes back to communication. I don't know if people communicate enough, because it's, out of fear, out of like, I don't want to let people know, like, I have these problems. I don't know this or whatever, like fear of like asking for help, not just help, anything. So it's like letting go of that. We need someone to just break that mold and like be the, change the narrative and make that a norm that, let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about physical health. Let's talk about, I listened to your other podcast about body imaging and all that. And it's not just females, men too. Like we all try to look good or whatever, want to look good, look better, whatever. Compare. Oh my gosh, the social media has made us all compare. Yeah. And everyone's looking at everyone else's highlight reel. Man, this guy's living a life. She's living a life. That's the highlight reel. You didn't see me. Was I posting in the mental hospital? Was I taking selfies in the hospital? Was I posting on my story when I was being detained? No. How? What? But you see these pictures of these celebrities I'm like in the studio with, and like that, yes, that's reality too, but like you don't see the other side of it. So if anything that I want to really preach to younger people, not just younger people, because again, I do it too, and older people do it. It's just norm of the generation, maybe. Yeah. Don't compare. So this is about yourself, and even about like what we were talking about earlier, like, okay, LA being so competitive. Yes, it is for sure. And people are going to step on you to get ahead. And that's just kind of what it is. Not just in the music and audio industry. That's with anything in life. But here's the thing. That's only going to go so far. And just keep your values, work hard, and work on yourself. Just like the race is within yourself and your life. Like I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday and last year. And I'm definitely trying to be better than what I was in 2017. And I'm trying to just progress in life, right? Not just career wise, but like musically, and like, I'm trying to get on the skincare routine, and like, I'm trying to just feel better. You know what I'm saying? Like I take care of myself. I look better. I feel better. I present myself better. I come with a better energy when I'm working with clients. It's all part of, it's the work that's done behind the scenes in at home, and that's where it starts. So, but just get into the habit of, just taking care of yourself and look and love yourself. Like, it's okay. Love yourself. Even men, like, come on. Like I said earlier, let's stop this toxic masculinity garbage. It's not about us, my muscles are bigger. Like, and then what? Get out of here. Like, it's about yourself. Take care of yourself.
And I think the main message too that you're talking about, and I want to emphasize, is that social media is extremely filtered, right? And it's not to say that that's not part of someone's life, but there's an aspect where people aren't going to post like severely depressing things. No. Or their rock bottom moments per se. Usually if they do, it's like the courageous story of like, I was 20 years in an addiction and I've come up and everything is a lot better, versus being an addict is a struggle every single day. Keeping those triggers, those feelings and emotions, and not just addiction, right? We're talking about you went through a pretty emotionally severe issue that needs to be continued to be looked at and managed. And if we're not careful, like you said, things can go to that place again or worse. And so I think just to continue to emphasize that social media needs to be taken with a grain of salt, but also that there's also aspects of our lives that aren't being shared that really need to be talked about.
And how do you think, as a professional, we can talk about it? Like, how can we open up more about it? And with the kids, like I was thinking, like as you're talking about this, like when you mentioned having a psychologist or a therapist for like what if a record label offered therapy for their artists and help them craft and figure out what's going on in their brain? Because a lot of artists, yeah, like because they're so creative, some of that just like is just kind of all over the place. So with good therapy, maybe they could be more focused and they could be more productive. And what if you offer therapy in elementary schools or in the public schools or any school that, let's talk. Like, this is the time. This is like your 10-minute, 15-minute window. Like, you tell me what's happening. Like, are you good? What do you think? Like, how can we fix this?
Well, obviously, I don't have all the answers, but I will say I'm very encouraged because in elementary schools, at least the one of them that my daughter is attending, teaches about meditation, mindfulness, and metacognition. I was like, dang, if this were hopefully a thing across the country, we would be in a better place, right? Like how to treat people with respect. And this is a public school. I'm very proud of that. The fact that they do rainbow breathing every day, and identify emotions and how they're feeling as part of socio-emotional development. That's one thing. Is I will say having mental health integrated into schools is so important, because if you think about, and not, obviously I've learned a lot of things, but there's some things where I don't use today, right? And when I think about middle school, there are two things that I learned that were really important to my life: typing and learning how to do a hidden stitch with sewing. Okay.
Nice.
Okay. Those are the things that stick out in my mind that I continue to use to this day. I don't know how to use a sewing machine per se, but I know how to do a hidden stitch when there's a hole, right?
There you go.
So I think like the point is that let's teach them stuff as well that has utility. And I think managing emotions, learning how to meditate are important tools that when you become an adult, you're maybe not going to have these panic attacks when you're in rooms. Or they also teach self-affirmations and self-confidence. Having those pieces to say, like, this is why I'm worth it, and having the kids say it themselves is so powerful.
Very powerful. And it's a habit, like you said. You just got to get into that habit of, I can do this. I'm amazing. Those are good affirmations to really instill in your brain. I'm glad. That's so great to hear that they're starting this in the elementary school, because if you can get them in that habit young, oh my gosh, the future is going to be good.
Absolutely. And in response to like the music industry specifically, I mean, I work with techies right now, where these big tech companies in Silicon Valley are partnered with this company that I work with. And they're great because they're a great middle person between these companies and therapists. And at one point I worked on site at one of these tech companies, which was great. It reduced the stigma because I was in one of those rooms and people can come in during their appointment and go out. Unfortunately, I got moved in the gym area. And can I tell you, I never thought I would give therapy when Back That Ass Up was playing in the gym. I was like, okay, can we just pause here? Luckily, my patient was really cool. And I was like, can we just pause here and just notice what's going on here? I like hip hop and R&B, but I was like, I never thought this would be my therapy moment. But the point is that there was on-site help. Hey, let's have some programming or some basic teachings on how to, just like you said, do some goal setting, look at maybe some of the challenges. I'm sure you work with artists who have a lot of self-doubt when it comes to putting out their music, because you're putting a part of yourself out there. And so mindset building of resilience and loving yourself, whether or not the numbers don't reflect something, right? Those
Hmm.
are like key things, and not just for artists, for most people, even in the group that we met through, and that's why I wanted to start it too, was being in in these multiple hands and multiple pots. There needs to be some self-care too.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And I'm glad you're doing this and you're being a part of this. And I hope people can really take a lot from this, where I know it's a lot of information, right? But it's like, take what you can and just try to evaluate your own life and just start small. Don't think like, I'm going to be a new person tomorrow. Like, it doesn't work that way, right? You got to just one step at a time. Today's your first day. There's a saying that I learned, and it's one day or day one. Today could be, you can be, well, one day I'm going to learn how to sing. One day I'm going to learn how to dance. One day. Or today could be day one. I'm going to learn how to sing. Day one if I'm going to learn how to dance. And tomorrow's day two. All right, I forgot. I was busy. The next day's 3. You know what I mean? Like, just start. And the little achievements, essentially in the long term of life, right, is going to be a big achievement. And you're going to be like, wow, man, my voice sounds a lot better. It's a lot stronger. It's like a muscle. I worked it out and I'm great. I can dance. Like, my body moves certain ways. Like, that's a good thing that I think we can all implement in our lives. So I'm trying my best, and I encourage everyone to do so as well.
Well, thanks, Kev. I really appreciate today, because I think we've touched upon so many important topics, and that's the whole point of why I'm doing this. So this is really one of those platforms where I'm trying to get more people to consider talking about this stuff, because I think the more we can normalize this, the better we will be as a country and as a community, in terms of like self-care, and really having some mentally healthy people out there.
Yeah, totally, 100% agree. It's we need it, right? I don't think that's a hard thing to argue. Or like, yes, as a country, as people, it's just we need to find out how to just come together. We need unity, not just in the Asian American community. We need in the country, in the world, all of it. So I think you're doing the right thing, and talking and having this podcast and speaking on these topics is, yeah, it's going to destigmatize it, right? The more we talk about this stuff and the more we see it occur, it's just like me growing up and not seeing a lot of Asian people in music and entertainment, that it's just, that it's like it's like, what? That doesn't exist. But the more you see it, like, okay, so the more you see people talking about, hear people talking about mental health and everything, and it's going to destigmatize it. We should normalize it, and it's okay. It's okay. And back to like guys and men, like, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to live their life, but it's okay to talk about your feelings. Like, listen to me. I'm crying on here. I'm like, it's just, but I'm real. I'm 100% telling you that this has helped me, and I've got through it, and I want other people to get through whatever they're going through. A lot of times we don't see what goes on behind the doors, or behind when they're at home in the relationship. Like, we don't know. You might think this couple's perfect, or this guy's got the life, you make money, or what. It's like, that doesn't always equate to happiness, right? I think I'm sure better than I do. Like, people talk to you and it's like, yo, they might be making tons of money, tech industry, indie music industry, any industry. I got money doesn't mean they're happy. I can honestly say, humbly, I am happy. I'm in a sound right now because I'm like choking up in tears, but I am. I'm genuinely very fulfilled. I wake up, I'm on a mission. I'm so proud of my team and everything we've done, and I'm so excited to live life. And there was a time that that wasn't it. So now I'm doing what I love. I'm passionate, and I'm surrounded by great people. I'm taking care of my body. Like, it's just what I would have never thought this would have happened. 2017.
Well, and that's the silver lining in going through some very difficult things and learning from it. And I want to thank you so much, because I know there was some hesitation in sharing your story, but I think it is just so important to know that someone whom I consider successful has gone through difficulty and is willing to share it. I think that's really helping people. And the vulnerability that you have shown is a strength. And I want people to know that, because people think vulnerability is a weakness, but I really value it as a strength, because it gets you closer to people. People don't really gravitate towards those that are staying on the surface. I mean, it only lasts for so long, right? Those are like acquaintances.
Right.
When you really share these personal stories and struggles and people can respond to it, not everyone is going to respond to it in a way that's supportive. So you still have to discern who you can trust and talk to. But the point is that you feel closer to people when they are real and they share some of their raw spots.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. And I'm really honored. I truly am. This has been a long time coming. And as I was like, thank you.
Thank you for choosing me. I can't say that enough because it's been a great discussion, and you are just such a strong person, and I'm so grateful that you came today.
Yeah, thank you. And anyone listening, I don't have all the answers, and I'm definitely not a professional like you, Stephanie. I'm not a therapist. I'm not, but I'm happy to share and listen, and if I can help, I want to help. That's genuine. That compassion is real. I really, if I can help, I want to help, and so don't hesitate to reach out however you need. Social medias, the internet. Yeah, can I plug? Can I get the plug?
Oh yeah, please. This is where your plug right now.
plug in. You can find me on Instagram, Kev Luu, KEVLUU _ATA, and TikTok, if you're on that, same kind of. I see you're on the TikTok game, and is that your husband on the TikTok game? The guys are smashing it. I love that. I love those.
That's him, dude. Like he went from 0 to whatever 70,000 now.
70,000.
I don't even think about TikTok, but he makes some content for me, earmarks it, and then I put it on my IG just for the business. But yeah, you've seen my kids. It's hella funny. My mom's
it's
like
so fun. Yeah, I love that the family's involved, and yeah, TikTok. Like I told my friends, like, you're on TikTok, like you're doing dance videos. Like, there's a great community.
It's just fun. That's all we do it for. Yeah.
And you don't gotta take it too serious. You can learn so much on TikTok. So yeah, I'm on that. If you want to check that out, I got a website, KevVocals, KEVOCALS.com. Just check out my stuff. I'm in a band. I got to shout out my band in Geneva, May. My bandmate. We're called Mid City Flannel. We're an electro pop group out here in LA. So yeah, check out our music. YouTube's and this, Spotify's. I'm on Spotify. I got some original music. Kev Luu, and yeah, Huey Stonefish, making a lot of music with him. So it's like I'm so happy to be creative and making stuff and out here and like breaking just stepping out of my comfort zone, doing new things and being surrounded by good people. So yeah, reach out, hit me up.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Kev. I again appreciate you for being here. Really thankful to make a new friend, and for sure, please reach out whenever you need.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Color Success Podcast. Listen, like, subscribe on all major streaming platforms, YouTube, IG, and if you want exclusive content, you can join our Patreon. All links can be found at colorofsuccesspodcast.com.